Hi all, and welcome to the Melton City Council Learning Directory. Today we're going to talk about composting and the benefits of what can be sometimes a little stinky affair, but not if we do it right. So I don't know if you know, but composting, stuff that is thrown down at the landfill, 1/3 of it is actually able to be composted. And that's not good really when you think about it, because that 1/3 of that waste there is using up landfill. It's creating methane gases, which is bad for obviously the environment and the global warming, etc. So we can do a lot of good for not ourselves but the environment and the world if we just compost. Let's talk about the different ways that we can compost. So you can see here we've got this great bin that has been made, and you've got these pieces of wood that slide in and out, which is going to make it very easy to access the compost later on. And as it fills up, you can put more boards in. So this is probably one of the better ways to do it, I think. Another way to do it is to use these old-fashioned bins, these tubs, where you can throw the compost material into the tub, put the lid on it, and let it do its stuff. But this way is a little bit harder to turn it over. So you really want to turn over a compost, but we'll talk about that later on. And there's also tumblers as well, where you can put the compost into a barrel and you can turn it and it'll tumble and it'll get a lot of aeration and stuff. That's probably one of the quickest ways to get your compost. The biggest secret to getting compost right is to get the ratio of between carbon and nitrogen right. So carbon is your brown material, so we're talking about twigs, branches, dry leaves, cardboard, stuff like that, which gives straw, which gives the compost its fluffiness and helps aerate it, which is really, really important. That's what we need for a compost to break down. We need air, we need water, we need moisture, and we need heat. And that's what's going to break down all the different materials that we put in there. So we need the right ratio of carbon to nitrogen. So we need 2/3 carbon to 1/3 nitrogen. And nitrogen is your green stuff. So we're talking about food waste, we're talking about grass clippings, fresh green waste. So that's your green. So we're going to say carbon's our brown and nitrogen's our green. So first thing we want to do is we want to grab our brown, which is our dried stuff. So this type of stuff, look at that, that's fantastic, look at that. And you can see how much air is going to be getting through that. So you want to be putting your carbon, your brown, down the bottom first. So that helps the air get underneath and get through your compost. So use your brown. Then you can use your greens. So you would layer it. So you can see here we've got some fruit that's a leftover from probably a fruit salad, I guess. So you'll do the green, and then you'll use your brown again, and then the green, and so on and so forth, until you get to a nice height, and you can keep it there. So then what you want to do is give it some water. It needs to stay moist, not wet, because you don't want it to break down anaerobically, because that way you're going to cause a lot of methane gas and it's going to smell. So you want it to keep it moist but not wet. And it's probably a good idea to even cover it. And you can use plastic, black plastic, carpet, old pieces of carpet, a rug or something like that, a piece of wood over the top. That'll help keep it moist, it'll keep the moisture in there, it'll help keep the heat in there, and it'll help cover up some of the smell, or keep some of the smell in there if there's any. Ideally we don't want to have any smell, but you know, it's compost, so as it's breaking down we will get some gases. So our layers, brown, green, keep it moist, keep it aerated, and keep it covered. When you add to that pile then, what you want to do is that you want to mix that pile, the new fresh thing, into the compost. You don't just want to put it on top of it and just leave it. As you're mixing it, what you're doing is you're getting air through it and you're helping break it down quicker. It's already going to take a substantial amount of time for it to break down, but so aerating it is going to help break down all that lovely bits and pieces of stuff that you've put in there to get it into a nice black rich compost that we want to see. So when you add that, you mix it through. If you haven't got any extra stuff to do, you really want to mix it. I'd do it, you know, on a weekly basis if you can, if not, you know, fortnightly. The more that you aerate it and get a rake in there or a fork, or a spade. Fork is probably the best thing to do. The easier it's going to be to keep aerating it, and also the quicker it is going to be to break down. So getting the air, get a rake in there every week or every fortnight, turn it over, and you'll start to see it start to break down. Now, things that we can put in a compost. Well, you can put many things. You can put obviously your green waste. You can put in eggshells, but not your eggs. Lint, laundry lint. You can use the dryer's lint, the washing machine lint. You can add that to it. You can add some hair. You can use paper, magazines. You've got your cuttings and obviously your branches, twigs, hay, stuff like that. What you don't want to put into your compost, which is probably just as important. Well, you definitely don't want to put your pet's droppings in there, because I've got to say, apart from that actually being quite gross, it could be full of sorts of different bacteria, nasties that we don't want to put in there. The other things that we don't want to put in there is we don't want to put dairy products in there, because that attracts pests and also can set off an odour as well. So we don't want to put dairy products in there. We definitely don't want to be putting meat in there, you know, whether it's, it doesn't matter what type of meat, beef, chicken, fish, which is seafood, not a meat, I guess, but we don't want to add that either. I mean, that just sort of really encourages all sorts of pests and a smell as well as it breaks down. And things like bread. Now, bread is probably not a good idea to put it, because the bread does tend to attract mice and rodents and all sorts of different pests like that. So bread is another thing that we don't want to put in there. We don't want to put diseased wood in there, and you don't want to put big chunks in there. You want things to break down, but you know, the kitchen scraps, garden prunings, all sorts of stuff like that. Get it into your compost, turn it over, and it's going to turn out to be a beautiful, beautiful, nourishing material that we can put back into our garden as well. You might think to yourself, well, how long is this going to take? Usually, if you turn it over, if the heat's right, if we've got the moisture right, it could be as little as 3 months and you've got a compost ready for you. If it's not, it could be as much as 2 years. But if we have a look at it, you know, in 3 months, and the keys to knowing whether the compost is ready is that you're not going to have a smell, it's going to be rich and it's going to be black. You're not going to notice any of, you're not going to see apples in there. You won't see bananas in there, all right? It'll be broken down. It'll look like a rich earthy soil. It'll be quite fragile and quite crumbly in your hands, and it'll be almost sweet smelling. You know, I'm not going to say it's smelling like fairy floss, but it's definitely not going to smell like eggs. It's not going to be that methane smell. So turn it over. Once you've got that black, beautiful compost. Another good indicator is that actually it'll reduce by about half the size. The original size that you have in there reduces by about half. You know it's getting really ready to put back into your garden. So don't forget, layers, brown, green, brown, aerate it, turn it over, keep it moist, keep it covered, and in hopefully about 3 months' time, you're going to have this beautiful black, rich compost that you can put back into your garden and have some beautiful plants coming up there again. So I hope that you've taken something away from this. Get out there, let's help reduce the landfill and give back to the environment, and in the same time grow some beautiful fresh veggies and plants for ourselves. That's all for today. I hope you got a bit out of this, you learned something, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.